The lobby security footage showed an Omega woman walking through the Bellamy's front entrance at 1:52 in the morning, barefoot in silk pajama shorts. Eyes open, seeing nothing. She crossed the marble lobby like a ghost, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, and pushed through the glass doors into the Portland night. The security guard, a beta named Marcus who had worked the overnight shift for 11 years, watched the screen with the particular stillness of a man who had learned not to blink at strange things. 20 minutes later, the doors opened again. A woman walked in carrying the Omega in her arms. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of deliberate movement that suggested she could break things without trying. Alpha, unmistakably. The Omega's head rested against her shoulder, arms looped loosely around the Alpha's neck, completely unconscious. The Alpha carried her to the elevator, her jaw tight, and the doors closed behind them. That was May, Marcus muttered, scrolling backward through the feed. April had the same thing. Same Omega leaving, same woman bringing her back. March. February. January. All the way back to the oldest recording the system had kept. Same Alpha, same Omega, same route through the lobby in the middle of the night. Once a month, every month, since January. The Omega watching the screen was named Sloan Chin. Until 30 seconds ago, she had no idea any of this was happening. The first time Sloan met the Omega from the 10th floor, it was January, and the woman was sitting on a bench outside the building at 1:30 in the morning. Barefoot. Silk pajama shorts in the middle of winter. Talking to a pigeon. "You are very round," the Omega was saying to the bird, her voice soft and pleased, the way someone talks to a baby or a particularly good sandwich. "I like that about you. Round is a good shape. Are you cold?" "I am cold. My feet are cold." Sloan was outside getting air after 12 hours at her desk. She stood 3 feet away, one hand in the pocket of her worn leather jacket, and felt something she had not felt in a long time. Irritation? Yes, that was familiar. But underneath it, a curiosity she did not welcome. Sloan knew this Omega by reputation. In a 40-unit luxury building in Portland's Pearl District, reputation traveled whether you wanted it to or not. 10th floor. Parents paid her rent. Had been at Portland State for what seemed like forever. Sloan had overheard the doorman mention it once to another resident, and the number 6 years had stuck because it was exactly the kind of detail that burrowed under your skin when you had spent those same years building a business from a borrowed couch and a broken laptop. Sloan had spoken to the Omega once, in the elevator. The Omega had looked at Sloan's paint-stained hoodie. She had been helping a friend renovate a gallery space and asked if she was the building's handyman. Not rudely. Worse than rudely. Casually, like someone talking to a person they had already filed under unimportant. Sloan had said no. The Omega had said, "Oh. Well, you should tell them the hot water pressure on 10 is unacceptable." Then she had walked out without ever learning or caring that Sloan ran a business that made more in a month than the Omega's parents probably spent on her rent. That was exactly the type of person Sloan had been angry at since she was old enough to understand what money meant. Not angry in a loud, visible way. Angry in a quiet way, the kind of anger that settles into your bones when you are young and stays there because nothing ever comes along to move it. People who were born comfortable. People who floated through life on family money, never building anything, never earning anything, never understanding that the world they moved through so easily was held together by the labor of people they did not see. Sloan had been one of those unseen people. Foster kid, group home, the girl who wore second-hand clothes and ate whatever the house provided and learned early that the gap between the people who had and the people who did not was not a line you crossed through hard work. It was a wall, and the people on the comfortable side rarely looked over it. She had climbed that wall anyway, straight up, hands bloody. Built a business from nothing. Slept on a WeWork couch for 3 months. $8 menu burgers for 2 years straight. Worked 18-hour days, 6 days a week for 4 years, until the business she had willed into existence was generating enough revenue to put her in a building where Omega women complained about elevator music and mistook cell-made alphas for hired help. Sloane did not belong in the Bellamy. She knew that. She had earned it, but earning was not the same as belonging. Every resident she passed in the lobby smelled like family money and confidence that had never been tested. And every time she nodded to one of them, part of her was thinking, "You have no idea what this costs." And now the worst offender, the poster child for unearned comfort, was sitting on a bench outside the building in January, barefoot in heat, talking to a pigeon. And Sloane's alpha instincts were screaming at her to go closer. She hated her instincts. "Hey," Sloane said. The Omega turned to her with the slow, dreamy focus of someone not entirely present. Her eyes were open but glassy, pupils blown wide. The sharpness Sloane associated with her was absent, the lifted chin, the bored expression, replaced by something unguarded and almost sweet. She looked like a different person. "Hi," the Omega said and smiled. It was a real smile, warm and crooked, and it looked nothing like the polished, practiced expression Sloane had seen in the elevator. "Are you okay?" Sloane asked. "I am great. I came outside because my apartment was too warm and the air is nice." She tilted her head, studying Sloane with the frank curiosity of a child. "Do you live here?" 11th floor. "I am on 10. We are neighbors." Genuine delight, like a kid discovering someone lives on the same street. "What is your name?" "Sloane." "Sloane," she repeated, tasting it. "That is a good name." "I am Mira." Mira pulled her knees up, wrapping her arms around them, and her scent pulsed outward. She was an Omega in the early stages of heat, not the full, consuming heat that would come in a day or two, but the preheat surge that made her smell like something Sloane's body recognized on a level deeper than thought. Jasmine and rain. That was Myra's scent. Jasmine, sweet and heady, with rain underneath, wet earth and ozone and something green, but amplified by the heat surge into something electric. The jasmine sharpened into a citrus burn, and the rain went warm and soft underneath, and the combination did something to Sloane's chest that she did not appreciate. She clenched her jaw. Pheromone compatibility was not a choice. It was not a character judgment. It was biochemistry, and biochemistry did not care that the Omega producing the most compelling scent Sloane had ever encountered was a spoiled rich kid who had never worked a day in her life. "The nighttime me just wants to talk to people," Mira continued. "The daytime me does not like people very much. But the nighttime me is lonely." She patted the bench beside her. "Sit with me for a minute." "Just a minute." "Nobody talks to me at nighttime." Sloane should have walked the Omega to the lobby and left. Every rational part of her said no. This was exactly the kind of person she had spent her entire life avoiding, someone who had everything handed to them and still managed to need more. But nobody talks to me at nighttime hit differently than she expected. She sat down. They talked for 20 minutes. Mira asked what Sloane did for work, and Sloane told her she ran her own business. Mira listened with a focus that felt less like comprehension and more like absorption, taking in the emotional texture of what Sloane was saying rather than the details. She asked if Sloane liked living in Portland. She asked if Sloane was happy. "I do not think about that much," Sloane said. "That is sad." Mira said it without performance, without the pitying tone people used when they wanted you to know they cared. Just a plain observation. You should think about it. Happiness is not something that just shows up. You have to pay attention to it, or it goes right past you. If the daytime version of this Omega had said that, Sloane would have laughed in her face. Happiness advice from someone whose parents bankrolled her existence. But from the nighttime version, barefoot and open and scent-drunk on a park bench, It did not sound like a platitude. It sounded like something a person says when they are lonely enough to think about what matters. Then Myra's eyes drifted. Her head tilted, found Sloane's shoulder, and settled there. Her breathing evened. The semi-conscious haze she had been operating in tipped over into real sleep, her body going heavy against Sloane's side. Sloane sat still. The Omega's hair brushed her jaw. Her scent was everywhere, jasmine and rain, so strong Sloane could taste it. Mira was warm and slack and trusting in a way that made Sloane's chest tight, and the fact that this was the woman her body had chosen was not something she wanted to think about. "Come on," Sloane said, her voice rougher than intended. "Let's get you inside." She stood, pulling Mira up with her. Mira mumbled, but did not wake. Her legs buckled after 2 steps, and Sloane caught her, and the catching turned into lifting, one arm under her knees, the other across her back, because the alternative was dragging an unconscious Omega across wet grass in January. Mira weighed nothing. Her head dropped against Sloane's shoulder, and her hand grabbed the front of Sloane's jacket and held on. Sloane carried her through the Bellamy's entrance, past Marcus at the front desk, who looked up, then carefully looked back down, and into the elevator. She hit 10. Mira had told her the floor earlier, during the conversation on the bench. The elevator opened, and Sloane carried her down the hall. The apartment doors in the Bellamy used fingerprint scanners, sleek panels mounted at handle height, and 1004's door was standing slightly ajar. Sloane had pressed her thumb to the scanner on the way out and never pulled the door fully shut behind her. Of course she had not. Someone who had never lost anything did not think about locks. The apartment was ridiculous. A leather couch that looked like it had never been sat on. A kitchen with a professional espresso machine and a refrigerator containing oat milk, champagne, leftover takeout, and a single lime. The bedroom had sheets that felt like water and smelled like Myra's scent concentrated to a density that made Sloane's vision blur. She set Mira down. The Omega curled onto her side, grabbed a pillow, and pulled it to her chest. Her sleeping face was soft and untroubled, nothing like the face Sloane saw in the elevator, and Sloane hated with a focused intensity how much she wanted to stay. She left, pulled the door shut, stood in the hallway, breathing air that was not jasmine and rain. She went upstairs, sat at her desk, opened her laptop. The pricing model was still there. The numbers meant nothing. Her jacket smelled like the Omega. She threw it in the hamper and worked until 4, trying not to think about any of it. She failed. Sloane had no friends. This was not a complaint or a confession. It was an operational fact, the same as the office is closed on Sundays or rent is due on the 1st. She had no friends because she had never learned how to keep people. 7 foster homes in 9 years did that to a person. Every placement was temporary. Every bed was borrowed. Every relationship, with foster parents, with other kids in the house, with social workers who promised things they could not deliver, was a lease with an expiration date she could never see. By the time she was 12, she had stopped investing in people entirely. Not out of cruelty, out of math. The return on emotional investment in temporary relationships was 0, and Sloane had learned early to put her resources where they compounded. Work compounded. Skills compounded. Money compounded. People did not. Her parents had died when she was 10. Car accident, Interstate 5, ice storm. She remembered her father's laugh and her mother's hands, and the specific way their house smelled on Sunday mornings when both of them were home. She remembered the photo, the one that now hung on her apartment wall, the only object from her previous life that had survived 7 moves and 9 years of impermanence. After the accident, there was nobody. No grandparents, no aunts or uncles, no family friends willing to take on a grieving 10-year-old alpha who did not speak for 2 months after the funeral. The state took her. The state shuffled her. 7 homes. 2 good, 3 tolerable, 2 bad enough that she still did not talk about them. She learned to read a room quickly and accurately, with the understanding that a wrong assessment could cost her. At 18, she aged out. Backpack, $200, a social worker's phone number that rang to voicemail every time she called. She rented a room near 82nd Avenue, worked 3 jobs, and started teaching herself everything she could at the public library because the only computer she could access for free was there. For years ago, she started her own business. No investment, no loans. 3 months sleeping on a couch at a shared workspace because she could not afford rent and a workspace at the same time. 2 years of cheap food. For years of 14-hour days. A small remote team now and enough monthly revenue that she could afford the Bellamy without blinking. The people around her had been born into the comfort she had clawed her way toward, and the gap between earned and given felt wider than it ever had. She was 29. She had no friends. She had no one she called when things went wrong. She had no one who knew her birthday or her middle name. The closest thing she had to self-care was going outside past midnight to stand in the cold and breathe air that did not smell like her apartment. She went outside at 1:30 in the morning because her apartment was quiet, and the quiet had started to feel less like peace and more like something pressing against her ribs. Work filled the space during the day. At night, the space was just space. And now, once a month, the Omega from the 10th floor filled it. The second time was February. Sloane was on the bench, cold air, the quiet of the city past midnight. The building door opened, and Mira walked out in different pajamas, still barefoot, still in that half-conscious heat state, still smelling like jasmine turned incendiary. She spotted Sloane, and her face lit up. "It is you," she said, sitting down beside her like they had an appointment. "The woman from upstairs. You remember me?" "The nighttime me remembers everything. I remember the bench and the pigeon and that you smell like something warm." Mira tilted her head. "You always look tired. Like you were carrying something heavy, but you would be insulted if someone offered to help. That is very specific. I notice things at night. The daytime me is too busy being important." She said it with gentle self-mockery, no malice, no performance. The nighttime Mira talked about the daytime Mira like an acquaintance she was fond of but did not fully trust. They talked for an hour. Mira asked questions no one had asked Sloane in years. Simple things. What is your favorite food? What did you want to be when you were young? Do you have anyone who cares about you? That last one landed like a fist. "No," Sloane said. "Not really. That is lonely. I am used to it. Being used to something is not the same as being okay with it. I am used to being spoiled. That does not mean it is good for me." Mira looked at her, the Omega who during the day would never admit to being spoiled, and had just diagnosed herself with perfect accuracy while sitting barefoot in February in silk shorts. The dissonance between the two versions of this person was so extreme it almost hurt. "Why are you telling me this?" Sloane asked. "Because the nighttime me does not have a filter, and because you look like someone who needs to hear true things, and nobody in your life is saying them." Sloane did not know what to do with that. Then Myra's eyes closed, her body sagged sideways, the semi-conscious state finally tipping into real sleep. Sloane caught her before she slid off the bench, and for the second time, lifted the Omega who represented everything she resented and carried her inside. In the elevator, Myra's sleeping hand found Sloane's collar and held on. Her face pressed into Sloane's neck, just below the scent gland, and her breathing slowed into the deep, settled rhythm of someone who had found exactly where they wanted to be. "I really do not like you," Sloane said to the unconscious woman in her arms. The words came out quieter than she intended, and they did not sound true even to her. She carried Mira to 1004. The door was ajar again, the fingerprint scanner glowing green from when Mira had opened it on the way out. She brought Mira to the bedroom and set her down. Mira curled around the pillow, her sleeping face looking nothing like her waking one. Sloane left, pulled the door shut, stood in the hallway. This time, she put her hand on the door before leaving. She did not think about why. She went upstairs. She worked. She did not sleep. March, April, May, 3 more months, 3 more benches. The conversations ranged from absurd to devastating without warning. In March, Mira told her mother kept calling to ask when she was graduating, and she did not know the answer. I have been in school for 6 years, and I do not know what I am doing there. The daytime me would never admit that. She would buy something expensive or change the subject. But the nighttime me just feels it. In April, Mira ranked Sloane's top 5 personality traits. Number 1, honesty. Number 2, your hands. Number 3, you listen like it matters. Number 4, you smell like a warm road after rain. Number 5, you are the only person who has ever treated me like I am real instead of decorative. In May, the night was cold enough that Myra's feet had gone pale on the concrete. Sloane pulled a spare sock from her jacket pocket and tugged it onto Myra's left foot while the Omega watched her with the drowsy affection of someone who thought this was the kindest thing anyone had ever done. You are warm, Mira said. Everything about you is warm. Then she fell asleep faster than usual, mid-sentence, and when Sloane lifted her off the bench, the sleeping Omega wrapped her arms around Sloane's neck and murmured, "The daytime me does not deserve you, but the nighttime me wishes she could keep you." Each time, Sloane carried her inside. Each time, the door, the hallway, the hand against the wood. Each time, the gap in her chest that had lived there since she was 10 closed for 40 seconds, and then opened again, wider than before. She started looking forward to it. She hated that she looked forward to it. She hated that the person her body had chosen, the person who made the loneliness bearable for 20 minutes a month, was a rich kid who had never earned anything. She hated that the nighttime version of this rich kid was more honest, more brave, and more perceptive than anyone Sloane had met in her adult life. She hated that carrying Mira felt like the only part of her month that was not about work, and that she did not want to give it up. She especially hated that the daytime Mira, the real Mira, the conscious Mira, did not know she existed. They shared an elevator in silence. They nodded in the lobby. 2 strangers who lived 1 floor apart. Sloane knew what Mira smelled like when every defense was down. Mira did not know Sloane's name. That was fine. That was better, because liking the nighttime version of a person you despised during the day was a problem Sloane did not know how to solve, and as long as they stayed strangers in the daylight, she did not have to. Mira Park's discovery began with a sock. She woke on a Saturday in late May with 1 bare foot and 1 foot wearing a gray cotton sock that was emphatically not hers. It was a cheap cotton sock, the type that comes in a pack of 6. It was not designer. It was not even interesting. But it was on her foot, and she had no memory of putting it there. Her pajamas were clean. Her door was closed. Her apartment was normal except for the sock and a faint scent on her collar that made her chest go tight. Warm, like rain-soaked pavement, with grain and copper underneath. She had smelled this before on her pillow, on her shirt collar, traces she had dismissed as imagination or building ventilation. But a sock was not a trace. A sock was evidence. She went to the security office. Marcus, the night guard, pulled up the hallway footage from the previous night. The timestamp read 2:18. Mira was walking down the 10th floor hallway from the elevator with a woman, not being dragged, walking, leaning against her, clearly talking, gesturing. At some point, she had apparently fallen asleep, because by the time they reached 1004, the woman was carrying her. Myra's arms around her neck, her head against the woman's shoulder. The door was already ajar from when Mira had let herself out with the fingerprint scanner earlier. The woman carried Mira inside. 40 seconds later, she emerged, pulled the door shut, and disappeared into the stairwell. 5 months of footage on the system. January through May. Same woman, same pattern. Each time, the lobby camera showed Mira leaving the building alone and returning in the woman's arms. Then the hallway camera caught the carry to the apartment and the departure. Her name is Sloan Chin, Marcus said. 11th floor. The handyman. Myra's stomach dropped. The woman from the elevator. Mira went back to her apartment. She showered. She dressed to kill. She went to the lobby and waited. 45 minutes until Sloan walked through the entrance with a laptop bag and a coffee mug, looking like she had not slept in a day and did not consider this a problem. You, Mira said. Sloan stopped. Something moved behind her eyes, fast and complicated. You have been carrying me to my apartment for 5 months. Yes. You have been inside my home while I was not in my right mind. Explain. Every month, you come outside during your heat. You sit on the bench. You talk to me. Then you fall asleep and I carry you home. I did not plan this. I did not cause this. I just happened to be there. Why were you there? Because I go outside at night. I work late and I need air. That bench has been my spot for 2 years. You started showing up in November. Why didn't you tell me? What would I have said? You visit me in your sleep and tell me things you would never say awake. You did not even know my name during the day. You thought I was maintenance staff. The reminder hit its target. Mira felt her prepared fury deflate in ways she found personally humiliating. What do we talk about? She asked, her voice smaller than she wanted. Sloan paused. Things. The daytime version of you would probably rather I did not know. Like what? Like the fact that you were afraid you were wasting your life. That your mother's phone calls make you feel small. That you perform confidence because you do not know who you are without the performance. She paused. Your words, not mine. Mira wanted the lobby floor to open up beneath her. You also told me I was handsome, Sloan added, and Mira felt her face go hot. And then said the daytime me would die before admitting that. I am going to my apartment now, Mira said stiffly. Your doctor should know about the sleepwalking. It is a suppressant issue. Long-term static dosing can fragment your heat cycle and cause parasomnia. Your heats are coming monthly instead of the standard quarterly because your prescription has degraded. You should get it adjusted. You researched this? I researched a condition that was sending you outside barefoot at 2 in the morning. Yes. Mira stared at her. This woman who had every reason to be smug, who knew things about Mira that Mira had never told anyone awake, who had carried her unconscious body to bed like it mattered, was standing in a lobby delivering medical information with the flat calm of someone reading a weather report. Thank you, Mira said. It came out stiff. For carrying me. For keeping it private. You do not owe me anything. I know I do not owe you anything. I am thanking you because it is the right thing to do. Do not make this harder than it already is. The corner of Sloane's mouth moved, not a smile, the ghost of one killed before arrival. You are welcome. She went upstairs. Mira stood in the lobby for a long time. Then she went back to her apartment, sat on her expensive couch, and held the gray sock. She breathed in warm asphalt and copper and thought about a woman who had carried her home month after month and never once acted like it gave her the right to anything. Mira called her best friend, a beta named Jake, who picked up on the first ring. I need to tell you something insane, Mira said. How insane? I have been sleepwalking into my neighbor's life once a month, telling her my deepest secrets, calling her handsome, then falling asleep in her arms. She has been carrying me to bed since November. 7 months. She lives 1 floor above me. I once asked her to fix my hot water. Start from the beginning, Jake said. Dr. Weiss confirmed everything Sloane had told her. 6 years of unchanged suppressants had fragmented Myra's heat cycle from the standard quarterly rhythm into shorter, monthly episodes. The sleepwalking was her body's workaround. The semi-conscious state you describe is parasomnia triggered by hormonal cycling, Dr. Weiss explained. Your limbic system, your emotional brain, is active during these episodes. You can talk, interact, make decisions. But your prefrontal cortex, judgment, inhibition, memory, and coding is suppressed. You are essentially yourself without editing. Myself without editing told a stranger she smells like a warm road. Your unedited self responded to a high-compatibility alpha pheromone signature. The behavior you described, seeking her proximity, sharing personal information, physical trust, those are all indicators of profound biochemical compatibility. Your sleeping brain recognized something your waking brain had been too suppressed to register. Dr. Weiss adjusted her prescription, a new formulation, to stabilize the fragmented cycle and prevent the parasomnia. This should stop the sleepwalking. But the compatibility will not go away just because you stop walking to her door. Mira filled the prescription. Took the first pill. Lay in bed. The June cycle passed without incident. Mira stayed in bed. She did not go outside. She did not sit on the bench or talk to anyone or fall asleep against a shoulder that smelled like warm asphalt. It was done. And Mira felt the absence of it like a missing tooth, a space her tongue kept finding, probing the gap where something used to be. She texted Sloane the following Saturday. I want to buy you a coffee. To apologize for the stalker accusation. You do not have to. I know. I want to. Name a place. Northwest 23rd, next to the bookstore. 10 o'clock. That is very early. I have been up since 5. Saturday at 10. Mira learned 3 things about Sloane Chen at that coffee shop. The first was that the woman talked more than expected in short, dry, deliberate sentences that occasionally detonated like small charges. The second was that she had no interest in being liked. The third was that she had opinions about Mira specifically, and none of them were flattering. That sweater costs more than my first 3 months of rent, Sloane said, looking at Myra's cashmere. How would you know what it costs? I know what things cost. I have been paying attention to prices since I was old enough to understand that some people do not have to. That sounds exhausting. It is. So is watching someone spend 6 years on a degree they do not care about because they have never had to care about anything. The words landed in the soft place Mira usually padded with designer clothes and confidence. But Sloane did not say them with heat or cruelty. She said them flat, observational, pointing out a crack in a wall because someone should know it was there. You do not know me well enough to say that, Mira said. I know you better than you think. 5 months of conversations, remember. Conversations I do not remember having. That does not make them less real. Sloane drank her coffee. The nighttime you told me you were afraid you were wasting your life. The daytime you is sitting here in a $400 sweater trying to figure out if I am being rude or honest. I am being honest. I am always honest. It is the only thing I have that was never given to me by anyone else. Mira opened her mouth, found nothing, closed it. Don't look at me like that, Sloane said. Like what? Like you are deciding whether to be offended. You are not offended. You are uncomfortable, and there is a difference. Offended is when someone says something untrue. Uncomfortable is when someone says something true and you do not want to hear it. Mira picked up her coffee and took a very deliberate sip. You're the most unpleasant person I have ever had coffee with. And yet you asked. I was being polite. You were being curious. There is a difference. The walk back to the Bellamy was silent, not hostile, just 2 people processing a conversation that had been more honest than either of them expected. At the entrance, Sloane held the door. For what it is worth, she said, the nighttime you was not wasting anything. The nighttime you was brave and funny and said things that made me want to listen. If the daytime you ever figures out how to be that person on purpose, she would be worth knowing. She walked inside. Mira stood on the sidewalk for a long time. She told herself each Saturday would be the last. Each Saturday, she showed up, and Sloan was already there. They argued about everything. Whether a $30 candle was a reasonable purchase. Whether Portland or Seattle had better food. Whether the Bellamy's lobby furniture was ugly or a specific shade of corporate despair. Mira told Sloan her apartment was depressing. Sloan told Mira her apartment was what happened when money substituted for identity. That is cruel, Mira said. Name one thing in your apartment you chose because you genuinely love it and not because it was expensive. Silence. That is what I thought. The espresso machine, Mira said. I love the espresso machine. Can you use it? I can press the button. Pressing a button is not using it. That is like saying you play piano because you can hit a key. I hate you. No, you do not. Sloan said it without looking up from her coffee, and the certainty in her voice made Myra's scent spike in a way she hoped the entire coffee shop did not notice. The resentment was there, though, not as banter, as something real underneath the banter that surfaced in the specific way Sloan talked about money and work and earning. You have never worked a day in your life, Sloan said one Saturday, not as an insult, as a fact. That is not true. I have had jobs. Name one. I interned at my father's friend's marketing firm for a summer. Were you paid? It was an internship. So no. The experience was the compensation. The experience of showing up to an office someone else arranged for you, doing work someone else assigned you, and leaving without financial consequence if you failed? That is not work, Mira. That is tourism. And what is work according to you? Work is what happens when the alternative is not eating. Work is sleeping on a couch because you cannot afford a couch and a desk, and you chose the desk. Work is being so tired you brush your teeth in the shower to save 4 minutes. Work is knowing that if you stop, everything stops because there is nobody behind you, nobody below you, no safety net, no parents, no trust fund, no apartment someone else pays for. Her voice did not rise. That was the thing about Sloan, level and precise. Every sentence landed where she aimed it. And the precision was what made them cut. She was not angry and she was not cruel. Just a woman who had earned everything she had sitting across from a woman who had never had to build anything. You resent me, Mira said. Sloan was quiet for a moment. I resent what you represent. People who are born comfortable and do not understand that their comfort cost other people something. People who float through systems designed to catch them while people like me fall through every crack in every system there is. I did not choose to be born rich. No, but you chose to stay comfortable. 6 years in school because there is no consequence for not finishing. A luxury apartment because someone else writes the check. No job, no ambition, no urgency, because urgency is what happens when comfort runs out and yours never has. You think I am worthless. I think you are capable of more than you know, and the money has made it so you never had to find out. That sentence lived in Myra's head for 3 days. It was there when she brushed her teeth. It was there when she ordered delivery for the 4th time in a week. It was there when her mother called to ask about graduation and she changed the subject. It was there when she looked around her apartment and tried to name one thing in it that represented a choice she had made rather than a purchase she could afford. She could not. She hates everything about me, Mira told Jake over brunch. She hates my clothes. She hates my apartment. She hates that I do not have a job. She hates that my parents pay my rent. Does she hate you? That is the infuriating part. No, she hates what I represent. But when she looks at me, she sees the nighttime version, the one who sits on benches being honest, and she thinks the daytime me is hiding that person on purpose. Is she wrong? Mira stabbed her eggs. Mira, is she wrong? No, she is not wrong. The nighttime me is the real me. The daytime me is a costume. And she saw through it in 5 minutes over coffee, while every other person I know has been buying the costume for 6 years. So, what are you going to do? I do not know. Something. I want to be someone she does not have a reason to resent. That is the first time you have wanted to be something for a reason that was not about comfort. The shift started small. Mira went to Sloane's apartment one evening to return a book, a marketing psychology title Sloane had lent her that Mira had read out of spite and found genuinely interesting. The apartment was smaller than it needed to be. Sloane could afford more space in the Bellamy, but she had never bothered upgrading from the unit she signed when she first moved in. A desk with 2 monitors dominated the room. A bookshelf crammed tight. A kitchen with real food. One photo on the wall. Your parents? Mira asked. Yes. Only photo I have. Mira looked at the photo. A couple, standing in front of a small house with a garden, looking ordinary and happy. The type of photo people take on a Sunday when nobody is trying to look good. She looked at the apartment, at the desk, at the bookshelf, at the bare walls. Everything in this room had been earned. Her own apartment was full of beautiful things that represented nothing except her parents' credit card. You built all of this, Mira said. From nothing. From less than nothing. From a negative starting position. Yes. I have never built anything. No. That bothers you. It bothers me that it does not bother you. Mira set the book on the desk. It is starting to. Something shifted in Sloane's face. She looked at Mira like a problem that had just gotten more interesting. Good, Sloane said. That week, Mira emailed her academic advisor for the first time in 8 months. She kept it to herself. The email was 2 lines. I would like to know what I need to finish my degree. Can we meet? It was not a decision. It was a question. But it was the first question Mira had asked about her own future that did not have someone else's money built into the answer. They started spending evenings together. Mira on the couch with a textbook, Sloane at the desk working. The silence between them was comfortable. Mira found that she could actually concentrate when someone else was in the room working harder than she was. Sloane's focus was contagious in a way that made Mira want to earn the quiet instead of waste it. Sloane still poked at her, still called her clothes ridiculous and her lifestyle unsustainable and her college career a monument to avoidance, but the teasing stopped feeling like a test and started feeling like respect. And Mira poked back. Told Sloane her apartment was sad. Told her eating at her desk was not eating, it was fueling. Told her working 14 hours a day was not ambition, it was hiding. Oh, you are hiding behind productivity the way I hide behind money, Mira said one evening. You work so you do not have to feel the empty apartment. I spend so I do not have to feel the empty degree. We are the same problem in different tax brackets. Sloane went still. She gave Mira the same focus she had given Mira on the bench when she asked if she was happy and she said she did not think about it. That is the smartest thing you have ever said. The nighttime me probably said it first. She did not. That was all you. One evening in mid-July, Mira fell asleep on the couch with a textbook open on her chest. Sloane did not notice at first. She was deep in a spreadsheet, headphones in, and it was only when she took them off to get water that she realized the apartment had gone quiet and the air had changed. Mira's scent had thickened. Not a heat, just more. Jasmine and rain, sweet and electric, and Sloane's body responded before her brain could catch up. Her pheromones flooded the room in answer, warm asphalt and roasted barley and heated copper, wrapping around Mira's scent until the air between them was thick enough to choke on. Sloane stood very still. This was not supposed to happen. Mira was not in heat. She was just asleep, and her body was doing what bodies did when they were comfortable and safe and surrounded by alpha pheromones they found compatible. But that was the problem, wasn't it? The compatibility. Sloane's hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists. She should wake Mira up. She should move to the other side of the room. She should do anything except stand here breathing in jasmine and rain like it was oxygen and she had been drowning. Mira stirred. Her eyes opened half-lidded, unfocused, the same dreamy quality she had at night on the bench. She blinked at Sloane. "Hi," she said, her voice soft and sleep-rough. "You smell good." Sloane's jaw tightened. "You are asleep." "I am awake now." Mira pushed herself up on one elbow, her pajama shirt slipping off her shoulder. "Come here." "No." "Come here." "Mira, I can smell you from across the room, and it is making me feel crazy. Please." Sloane's body moved before her brain could stop it. 3 steps. She stood at the edge of the couch, looking down at Mira, her breath coming fast. "This is a bad idea," Sloane said. "Everything about us has been a bad idea. That never stopped us before." Mira reached up. Her hand found the back of Sloane's neck and pulled her down. The kiss was clumsy at first. The angle was wrong because Mira was lying down and Sloane was bending over, and their teeth bumped and Sloane made a frustrated sound. Then Mira shifted, her hand fisting in Sloane's shirt, and Sloane's control snapped. She dropped to her knees beside the couch, one hand cradling the back of Myra's head, the other gripping her hip, and kissed her like she had been wanting to for 7 months. Rough and hungry and barely restrained. Mira gasped against her mouth, her scent spiking so hard Sloane's vision went soft at the edges. Sloane pulled back, panting. "Your scent is." "I know." Myra's pupils were blown wide. "I can smell you too. You are everywhere. I am trying very hard to keep my hands where they belong. Do not. Please do not." Sloane's hands found the hem of Myra's shirt. She pulled it up, and Mira arched into her touch, and Sloane's mouth found her throat, just below the jaw, where her scent was thickest. Mira made a sound, quiet and involuntary, and her whole body went warm and liquid. Sloane's lips hovered over Myra's scent gland. She could feel the pulse beneath the skin, could taste jasmine and rain on her tongue, could smell how much Mira wanted this. "Tell me to stop," Sloane said, her voice rough. "Tell me to stop right now." "Never," Mira breathed. "I have wanted this since the first time you carried me home. I just did not know it yet." Sloane bit down. It was not a marking, not yet, not fully, just a press of teeth against the gland, enough to send Myra's scent spiking and her body arching off the couch. She cried out, her hands grabbing Sloane's shoulders, her nails digging in. "You are going to kill me," Mira gasped. "Good. At least I will not have to listen to you complain about coffee anymore." The next morning, Mira woke up tangled in Sloane's sheets with the apartment smelling like both of them mixed together so thoroughly she could not tell where one scent ended and the other began. Sloane was still asleep beside her, her face pressed into the pillow, her hand resting on Myra's hip. She looked younger when she slept softer around the jaw, like the version of her that existed before she had to figure out the world alone at 10. The version that had parents and a house with a garden and did not know yet that all of it could disappear overnight. Mira reached out, touched Sloane's face. Her hand was warm and rough, a builder's hand, calloused from years of work, and Mira leaned into it with the same trust her sleeping body had offered on that first January bench. Sloane's eyes opened. "What time is it?" "Early. I want to bond with you." Silence. "None of this is about pheromones or the nighttime version of me," Mira said. "You are the only person who ever told me the truth and expected me to do something about it. You know I spent 7 months convinced you were everything wrong with the world," Sloane said, her voice rough. "And then you went and proved me wrong. Is that a yes?" "I have been waiting for you to ask since May." "Then yes." A bond formed on a July morning in an apartment on the 11th floor that had never felt crowded until 2 people tried to share it. Rain on the window. The combined scent of jasmine and rain and warm asphalt and roasted barley and heated copper filling every corner. Sloane bit first, finding the scent gland at Myra's neck with the focus she brought to everything. Mira bit back harder than she intended, and Sloane laughed against her skin, and Mira felt it in her chest like a second heartbeat. The bond settled between them. Two people who probably should not have worked and did anyway. 6 months later, Mira graduated from Portland State University. Communications degree, public relations concentration. She walked across the stage and found Sloane in the third row next to Jake, wearing a new jacket Sloane had bought her, applauding without any attempt at composure. "In the parking lot," Sloane said, "congratulations." "That is all I get?" "Congratulations." "What do you want, a parade?" "I want you to admit you are proud of me." "I am not saying that in a parking lot." "You are proud of me." "I am mildly impressed." "There is a difference." "Your scent just spiked." "You are lying." "My scent is doing nothing." "It is doing a lot." "You smell like a proud alpha, and it is embarrassing for both of us." Mira grabbed her by the back of the neck and pulled her in. They kissed, sloppy and laughing, and Mira said against her hair, "Burgers." "Obviously." They walked to the car. Myra's cap was crooked and her gown was wrinkled, and Sloane was already on her phone rescheduling the rest of her Friday because some things were more important than a product launch, which was a sentence she would not have been capable of forming a year ago. The burger place on 82nd had the same plastic chairs and the same line out the door. They ordered the same thing they always ordered. Mira finished 2 patty melts and Sloane stole a fry from the second basket, and Mira threatened divorce, which was dramatic, given they had been bonded for 6 months, but that was Mira. Everything was dramatic. Everything was too much. Sloane would not have changed a single thing about her. Later that night, Mira fell asleep on the couch again. Textbook open on her chest, her body warm and lax, her scent soft and content. Sloane sat on the floor beside her, watching her sleep. She reached out and brushed a strand of dark hair from Myra's face. In her sleep, Mira turned toward the touch, pressed her cheek into Sloane's palm like a cat seeking warmth. Sloane smiled. It was small and private, the kind of smile she had never let anyone see. "Hey," she murmured. "Sleepyhead." Mira did not wake up, but her hand found Sloane's and held on, and in her sleep, she smiled back. Extra story. The first time Sloane didn't leave, it wasn't intentional. It was August. The kind of Portland August that made you forget winter had ever existed, warm and golden and smelling like cut grass and river water. Myra's heat had come early, unexpected, and Sloane had found her on the bench at 1:47 in the morning, barefoot in shorts that were practically non-existent, her skin flushed and her eyes glassy. "You're early," Sloane said, already moving toward her. "The pills stopped working," Mira mumbled. I don't know. Everything is too warm." Sloane sat down beside her, and Mira immediately collapsed against her, not the slow, gradual lean of their usual nights, but an urgent press of warm skin against warm skin, her face buried in Sloane's neck where the scent was strongest. "You smell so good," Mira breathed. "You always smell so good. I think about it during the day. I think about it when I'm awake." "That's new. That didn't used to happen." Sloane's throat went tight. "Mira, I know. It's just the heat. It's just biology. You don't have to tell me." But her hands were fisted in Sloane's jacket, and she was shaking slightly. "I just need you to hold me for a minute. Just a minute. And then you can carry me upstairs and leave, and I won't remember any of this tomorrow." Sloane held her. 1 minute stretched into 5. 5 stretched into 10. Myra's breathing evened out, but she didn't fall asleep, just stayed there, pressed against Sloane, her scent pulsing in waves that made Sloane's head spin. "You should go," Mira said eventually, her voice muffled against Sloane's shoulder. "It's not safe for you to stay. I can feel my control slipping. I'm not leaving you out here. Then carry me up. But leave after. Please." Sloane carried her up. She carried her through the lobby, past Marcus, past the elevator, down the 10th floor hallway to 1004. She carried her into the bedroom and set her down on the bed, and Myra's hands came up and grabbed her wrists. "Stay," Mira said. "Just until I fall asleep. Please." "I'm scared." Sloane froze. This was different. This was new. In all the months of carrying Mira home, she had never once asked Sloane to stay. She had never admitted to being scared. "Mira." "I'm scared," Mira repeated, her voice small. "My body is doing things I can't control, and I don't want to be alone. I know I won't remember this tomorrow. I know I'll wake up and think it was a dream. But right now, I'm scared, and you're the only person in the world who makes me feel safe, and I don't want to be alone. Please." Sloane sat down on the edge of the bed. She didn't leave. Mira curled toward her, pressing her face against Sloane's thigh, and her breathing slowly steadied. Her grip on Sloane's wrist loosened. Her scent softened from the sharp, desperate edge of heat to something warmer, more content. Sloane stayed. She stayed for an hour. She stayed until Myra's breathing went deep and even, until her body relaxed into real sleep. She stayed until the heat in the room began to settle, not gone, but quieter, banked like a fire that had been fed enough to last through the night. Then she slipped her wrist free, pulled the covers over Myra's sleeping form, and stood up. She didn't leave. She walked to the kitchen. She made herself a cup of tea, Myra's tea, some expensive herbal blend that smelled like lavender and honey, and sat on the couch in the dark, her body humming with the aftermath of being that close to an omega in heat. She should go. Every rational part of her knew she should go. But Mira had asked her to stay, and Mira had been scared, and Sloane had never had anyone ask her to stay before. She stayed until dawn. She watched the sky lighten through Myra's floor-to-ceiling windows, watched the city wake up below them. She watched Mira sleep, peaceful and untroubled, and she thought about what it would be like to wake up next to her every morning. She didn't let herself finish that thought. When the sun was fully up, she stood, walked to the bedroom door, and looked at Mira one last time. Then she left quietly, carefully, pulling the door shut behind her. She went upstairs. She sat at her desk. She opened her laptop and stared at the screen for an hour without seeing a single number. The scent of jasmine and rain was still on her skin. Extended cutscene 2, the text messages. 3 weeks later, Mira texted Sloane for the first time during the day. Sloane was in a meeting when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, an unknown number, and almost ignored it. But something made her look again. "Hey, it's Mira. I found your number in the building directory. Hope that's not weird. I was wondering if you wanted to get coffee tomorrow. The daytime version of me wants to talk to you. No sleepwalking involved. I promise." Sloane stared at the message for a long time. The meeting continued around her. Someone said her name. She didn't hear them. "Okay," she typed back. "The usual place? I was thinking somewhere else. Somewhere I haven't ruined by being a nightmare. There's a place on Division. Good pastries. I'll send you the address." Sloane looked at the message and realized she was smiling. She didn't smile during meetings. She didn't smile in general. But she was smiling at her phone like an idiot. She put the phone away and tried to focus on the meeting. It didn't work. Extended cutscene 3, the pastry shop. The pastry shop on Division was small and warm and smelled like butter and sugar. Mira was already there when Sloane arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 coffees and a plate of croissants. "You came," Mira said. She sounded surprised. Like she hadn't expected Sloane to show up. I said I would. Yeah, but people say things. You actually do them. Mira pushed a coffee toward her. I got you a latte. I don't know how you take it, so I guessed. If it's wrong, you can throw it at me. Sloane sat down. She took a sip. It was perfect. I don't know your coffee order, Mira continued, because you always order for yourself and I never paid attention. That's something I realized. There are a lot of things I never paid attention to. Like what? Like how you always stand with your weight on your left foot. Like how you rub the back of your neck when you're stressed. Like how you don't look at people when they're talking to you, you look past them, like you're calculating something in your head. Sloane blinked. That's accurate. The nighttime me pays attention. She has nothing else to do. She just sits there and watches people. But the daytime me is too busy being important, remember? Mira smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I realized something else, too. I realized that the daytime me is kind of an asshole. I wouldn't say. Don't. Mira held up a hand. Don't defend me. You've met the daytime me. You know what she's like. She's shallow and selfish, and she treats people like they're furniture. She asked you to fix her hot water. Who does that? Sloane didn't say anything. The nighttime me told you things, Mira continued. She told you she was scared. She told you she was lonely. She told you she was wasting her life. And I, the daytime me, I woke up every morning and pretended none of it was true. I put on expensive clothes and went to classes I didn't care about and ordered takeout and never thought about any of it. And then I met you and you saw through all of it in about 30 seconds. Sloane's coffee was growing cold. She didn't care. I'm trying to change, Mira said. I don't know if it's working. I don't know if it's enough. But I'm trying. I got a job. I'm actually going to finish my degree. I bought groceries for the first time in my life, real groceries, like vegetables and things. I think I'm figuring it out. Slowly. That's good, Sloane said. It's terrifying. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to budget. I didn't know how to talk to people without being condescending. I'm still figuring it out. But I'm trying. Sloane reached across the table. She didn't know why she did it. She was not a person who reached for people. But her hand found Myra's, and Myra's hand turned over under hers, their fingers slotting together like they had always meant to. You're doing fine, Sloane said. I'm not. You are. You're doing better than fine. You're doing something that most people never do. You're looking at yourself honestly, and you're choosing to be different. That's rare. Mira looked at her. There were tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. You know, she said, the nighttime me was right about you. You're the only person who's ever treated me like I'm real. I'm just telling you the truth. That's what I mean. They stayed there for hours. The pastries went cold. The coffee went cold. The world outside the pastry shop went on without them, and neither of them noticed. They talked about everything and nothing, about Sloane's business and Myra's classes, and the way the light hit the river at sunset in the summer. Sloane walked Mira home. At the door to the Bellamy, Mira turned to her. Thank you, she said. For coming. For not making it weird. For being honest. Thank you for the croissants. Mira laughed, that loud, genuine laugh that Sloane had heard in the elevator all those months ago. I'm going to go upstairs and think about how I just spent 4 hours staring at a woman who made me feel like I'm worth something. It's true. It's fine. I'm allowed to be embarrassing. It's my day off. She winked. See you tomorrow? Daytime version, I promise. No sleepwalking. Tomorrow, Sloane agreed. She watched Mira disappear into the elevator, and she stood in the lobby for a long time, breathing in the scent of jasmine that had somehow followed them all the way home. Extended cutscene 4, the first fight. They had their first real fight in September. It was stupid. It was always stupid, the first fight. They had been so careful with each other, so careful to be honest and gentle and patient, and then one day, something cracked. It happened in Sloane's apartment. Mira had been cooking, trying to cook, anyway, and she had used too much salt, and Sloane had made a comment, and Mira had thrown the spatula down and said, "You think I can't do anything right, don't you?" Sloane had blinked. "What? You think I'm useless. You think I'm incompetent. You've been thinking it since the first time you met me, and you just wait for me to prove you right." "Mira, I'm trying, Sloane. I'm trying so hard. And you don't see it. You just see the money and the privilege and the easy life. You don't see that I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life, and it still isn't good enough for you." "That's not true." "It is true. You told me I'd never worked a day in my life. You told me I was tourism, not work. And I cried about that, Sloane. I cried about it because I knew you were right, and I hated that you were right, and I hated that you saw it so clearly." Sloane's voice was quiet. "I was wrong." "What?" "I was wrong. You've been working hard. I see it. I see it every day. I don't know how to say things. I don't know how to tell you that I'm proud of you. I never learned how. No one ever said it to me, so I don't know how to say it to anyone else." Mira looked at her. The anger was fading, replaced by something softer, sadder. "I don't know how to say things either," she admitted. "I know how to perform. I know how to pretend. But saying something real? That's new." They stood there, on opposite sides of the kitchen, the forgotten pasta growing cold on the stove. "I'm proud of you," Sloane said. The words came out stiff, awkward, like they didn't quite fit in her mouth. But they were true. Myra's face crumpled. She crossed the kitchen in 2 steps and threw her arms around Sloane's neck. "I'm proud of you too," she said into Sloane's shoulder. "I'm proud of you for being the toughest person I've ever met. I'm proud of you for building a life from nothing. I'm proud of you for letting me in." Sloane wrapped her arms around Myra's waist. She held on tight. She didn't let go. They ate cold pasta and laughed about it, and later, when Mira fell asleep on Sloane's couch, not in a heat fugue, not in a dream state, just worn out from a long day, Sloane covered her with a blanket and sat on the floor beside her, watching her breathe. She didn't know how to say things, but she was learning. Extended cut scene 5, the heat they spent together. October arrived with rain and wind and the first real chill of autumn. Myra's heat hit on a Friday night. Sloane had just closed her laptop when Mira appeared in the doorway of her office, flushed and shaking. "It's early," Sloane said, already standing. "I know. I think the suppressants are still adjusting." Mira swayed on her feet. "I don't want to be alone." "Okay. I mean it. I don't want to be alone this time. I want you to stay. The whole time. Not just until I fall asleep. The whole time." Sloane crossed the room and took Myra's hands. They were shaking. "I'll stay," she said. "I'll stay as long as you need me to. You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to." Myra's eyes went wide. Then she was kissing Sloane, messy and desperate, and Sloane was kissing her back, steady and warm. The heat that followed was intense. Myra's scent filled the apartment until Sloane could taste it on her tongue, jasmine and rain and something deeper, something electric. They spent 3 days in that room, tangled in each other, the world outside forgotten. But it wasn't just the heat. It was the quiet moments in between, the way Mira traced the scar on Sloane's wrist and asked where it came from, and Sloane told her about the foster home where she'd broken her arm and the doctors had been too busy to cast it properly. It was the way Sloane held Mira through the worst of the cramps, murmuring nonsense into her hair, letting her scent wrap around her like a blanket. "This is what I want," Mira said on the 3rd morning, her voice rough and exhausted. "I want this all the time. Not just during heat. All the time." "Then have it," Sloane said. "Is it really that simple?" It can be. Mira kissed her, soft and slow. I love you, she said. I think I've loved you since the first time you carried me home. I just didn't know it yet. Sloane went still. Her chest felt tight. The words she had never learned to say were stuck in her throat. You don't have to say it back, Mira said quickly. I know you have a hard time with. I love you too. The words came out scratchy and uncertain, but they were true. They were so true it hurt. Mira started crying. Happy tears, she said, but Sloane still panicked, still tried to figure out how to fix it. Mira just laughed and pulled her closer. Extended cut scene 6, the morning after. Sloane woke to rain on the windows and the warmth of Myra's body pressed against her. She lay there for a long time, not moving, just watching Mira sleep. Her face was soft, her lips slightly parted, her scent quiet and content. Sloane reached out and traced the line of her jaw, featherlight. Mira stirred. Her eyes opened, and she smiled. Hi, she said. Hi. You stayed. I told you I would. I know. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that anyone would stay. Mira leaned into Sloane's touch. Thank you. For not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Sloane was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I promise. Mira kissed her a soft, sleepy kiss that tasted like morning and love and the promise of a future they were building together. Extended cut scene 7, the future. A year passed. Then 2. They moved to a bigger apartment, still in the Bellamy, because Mira had fallen in love with the building and Sloane didn't have the heart to leave. Sloane's business grew, branching into new markets and new cities, and Mira finished her degree and got a job at a PR firm where she was quickly promoted. They argued about things, the important things, the silly things, the things that couples argue about when they're building a life together. They learned each other's rhythms, each other's triggers, each other's favorite ways to be loved. Sloane still worked too much. Mira still spent too much money on candles. They still fought about coffee, about furniture, about whether the Bellamy's lobby was ugly or a specific shade of corporate despair. But at the end of every day, they came home to each other. And on the nights when Myra's heat came and the nightmares came with it, Sloane was there. She was always there, holding her, scenting her, telling her she was safe. You smell like home, Mira said one night, her face pressed into Sloane's chest. You too, Sloane said. And it was true. The end.